Okay, welcome to Vantage Point Conversations. So this is the earliest one that I've actually done, so Monday morning, but actually Monday afternoon for my guest. So my guest today is Gabriele Tozzi. Am
Gabriele,
I
perfect. Yeah,
perfect? And Tozzi is
thank you.
the correct
Yes, yes, yes.
pronunciation? Oh, perfect. So opening monologue. People will probably start to get bored of this, but I do not introduce my guests purely because I don't think I would do the best job. So if you would just take as long as you want, as long or short, just to introduce yourself, anything that you think is worth noting, highlights, lowlights, anything in between, just so we can understand you a bit better, and then we just jump into our conversation from there.
Thank you, Colin. So, good morning to you and to everyone. I'm not sure I will do a better job than the one you would have done introducing myself, but I will try. So I am Gabriele, and as I guess you would never tell by my perfect English accent, I am Italian. Even though since a few years I moved to Thailand. So this is my afternoon, and I've worked in the creative industry for more than decades now. But basically, after COVID, I decided to change my life. I moved from Italy to Thailand, and I switched hat. So right now, I am a coach. I support other leaders, especially sensitive individuals who are dressing the hat of leadership. And that's what I do in a nutshell. So back
Amazing.
to you.
Yeah. So there's a few directions I want to go, and especially I wanted to sort of dig into your past a little bit. But I wanted to pay you a compliment before we got started because, as all of these conversations, we have an initial conversation before the lives, just to make sure that you're happy to do live. What I took away from our conversation was that you really paid attention to me. You really listened, and that's something that's quite a skill in today's world. We seem to be very fast paced. We seem to want to speak before the other person is finished, myself included. I try to listen more than I speak, but I got from you that you were listening to me, and I felt very seen and very heard. And yeah, I just wanted to reflect that back to you because it was yeah, I came it's a strange feeling when you feel that way that someone's really paying attention to you. It's you go, oh, it feels a bit odd sometimes. You go, oh, so, like, yeah, I feel good, and but it's really nice. You took time. You didn't speak over me, which again, it happens to all of us. I'm sure I do it, but it's I wondered, have you always been that way, or it's like a skill that you've developed over time?
So let me say, first of all, it's reciprocal. It was very beautiful for me speaking with you and feeling heard. Second, as I mentioned, now I am a coach. I work as a coach. So if I didn't listen my clients, we would have a very big problem. Maybe I should consider changing my my current profession. And third, honestly, maybe not. I we were just sharing some experiences before our call started, and you were telling me how beautiful was Sicily and Italy and how passionate are people over there. And
Mhm.
as an original Italian, I tend to be quite passionate as well. So maybe before you learn that listening is part of the conversation and is very much important, as well as sharing whatever you have in your mind, I tended to like maybe like okay, interrupting the other one or like jumping into the conversation, uh, which I think is normal. But yeah, I completely agree. When you feel heard, this creates the space for a very special human connection.
Yeah, yeah. It's really strange when you phrased it like that. It said listening is very much part of like the conversation, and it even the words sounded strange. I don't know why. It was just like, yeah, we don't. I do think about it, but it sounds right. But often we don't do that. We often seems like we're fighting for either attention or for our ideas to get out there or to share. And it's I I think some of the most where I felt most uncomfortable was when I was speaking and people were speaking over me, and I hadn't even finished processing what I wanted to say, and someone's already started, and that for me is like it feels very invasive, very like oh, okay, and I know internally I can take that. You know, I have some insecurities which I think I'm getting past, but it can be very much like oh, okay, if you already think that you're not that you need to be a certain way, outgoing or speaking up, and then someone's speaking before you, it's that just that moment before, and it's a strange dynamic, and it can really close you down quite quickly, and it's like oh, and yeah, I think that's maybe a good part to talk about the sort of sensitivity side of things, but yeah, just give you a moment to how does that show up for you?
No, this really sounds true. You know, sometimes as coaches, we learn that assumptions are quite dangerous. And
Mm,
sometimes when we jump in a conversation, it's because we are assuming we already know where the other person is heading with his or her line of thinking, while maybe, as you correctly pointed out, the other person is still processing. So never assuming to know is a good starting point, I think, because everyone has a different universe inside. It's very much difficult to say, "Oh, I've got you. I know you." You know, it's like it's too much to a human being to say, "Oh, I understand. I know you. I know where you are going." So
mm.
so so yeah, I completely relate with what you were saying.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think we find it very useful to put people into boxes because then we sort of say, oh, well, you're this type or this type or this type, and I think along the way I can understand that there are certain things that make us a certain way, etc. But it's almost that we disregard our background and our history and what we've done and our experiences, and Uh, let's just dig into your history because from Italy to Thailand, and it wasn't just a direct thing. I remember you saying to me that you went to university. It was philosophy you were doing. That was great.
Yeah.
And you said you were 60% of the way through, and then you made a decision to join the theatre company, right?
Yes.
And and I was like, wow, that's quite a decision to do 60%. So you're over half of the way there towards your degree, and then you move. And then you explained to me that you've also uh, you joined the company, you took up a management role. So I mean, you can sort of expand on all of these things. And then you took the sort of management marketing type role for that. Then you've gone to Asia. Now you're in Thailand and you live permanently in Thailand. That's they in themselves, and I'm sure there's other things in between all of that journey. They are very not. I don't know. Big moves is the right way to describe it, but not everybody would do that. What's made you do it? Is that a feeling? Because we're going to talk about intuition. What what happens to you when you make those decisions? Is it you see something, you feel something, you were unhappy where you were, or you saw something different and you wanted to take it, or I don't know. Is yeah. So
Mm.
maybe you just I haven't done the best example of your history, but yeah, just take a few moments to explain those decisions along the way, and what made you make those decisions, if that makes sense.
Uh, Total sense. Thank you. And you see, this is the evidence that you were listening back then. You see. So so yeah, maybe my first big decision is when you have to choose what to do after high school. So I remember uh, staying in my bed, like saying, what should I do now? Like, because you are in that moment in your life when you say, okay, should I go for like a philosophy or biology or archaeology or medicine or become a lawyer or become an actor or, you know. And then I loved philosophy. At the same time, I was thinking, "Ooh, but maybe this is not the best line of study if I want to make money." But I remember that specific night, I thought like, well, just make the next step. Just focus on the next step, and then you will see what happens next, and you will make your own decisions next. I was like 17 years old, 18 years old, and yeah, so maybe this kind of approach, like just do whatever feels right now, and trust that this is the best next step you can take right now. And this doesn't mean that you are marrying your university. You know that you can change if needed. But from this point of view, from this perspective, this is the best thing. This is what resonates with me the most. So let's try this direction. And then basically it was a kind of a copy and paste of the same dynamic. As you correctly mentioned, I arrived to 60%, 70% of my studies, and I met this group of young actors and artists, and I completely fell in love with this project. So eventually I decided to quit university and to join the company. And I stayed with this company for more than 20 years. I started centuries ago, I started on stage as an actor. Super beautiful experience. And then I became a manager. Slowly, the company grew and became national and then international. And so I had the chance to manage events in Italy, in Europe, in America, and in Asia. And as you mentioned again correctly before, my last assignment was in Southeast Asia. And I was here when COVID hit, and I had time to basically kind of rethink my life. And so I decided that what most felt true to me at that moment was to start a new chapter in my life. So I quit the previous job without exactly knowing what to do. And I finished the university degree, by the way, at that time. And then I became a full-time coach.
And it, thank you for sharing that. It's really strange because when you were talking, it's the exact opposite of often what we're told. So I'll just maybe reflect my own journey. So we're often told that, okay, we need to know what the end goal is, what you're shooting for. And I think, as you beautifully put it, you only knew what you wanted to do in that moment and you were thinking about it. But I often, well, I've now got young kids, and I think we're asked to make decisions over our life very early when we have no experience about what that is. Like you said, university, what course? You can maybe get the sense that you would like to go to university. I can understand that and just say, I'd like to study or experience, maybe being away from home or something along those lines. And then you have to pick something that you know nothing about. And I don't know if it's how I see the world or that's genuinely the way that it is set up, is that you have to give so much of yourself and keep going, and you're almost told not to quit that out. So I am a very loyal person in many ways. So I think that hasn't served me very well because it felt like a decision was forever. And that's changed recently in my personal life, and I'm learning to sort of unwind that. And I know where it comes from. I'll explain it because it's quite simple. So years and years ago, when I was a kid, we were gonna. My brother wanted to do a paper round, and I said I would do a paper round as well. And my mum and dad said to me, or to us, if you want to do this, absolutely fine, but you have to keep doing it. There's no, I'll wake up one day and don't do it. It's like you do it, rain, shine, snow, everything, you do it. And that was a great, it gave me a very good loyalty. I kept going. My brother did the same. But I think that part of that message was missing, as in when this doesn't suit you anymore, you can change. Whereas I just kept on. So I was actually still doing a paper round when I was 21 years old. I had a job in London, and there was just this transition of still doing it. And yeah, like my mum and dad helped us out, but it was like, okay, it felt like a decision had to be forever. And I feel that that is often the case for many other people as well, because especially I think around the 40s, we have this thing called a midlife crisis. It's been known for a while. And, you know, I would say that's around the 40s. People start to be unhappy or seem to be unhappy. Things aren't quite right in their life. And that there used to be the stereotype that men in their 40s have a midlife crisis and then get a convertible sports car and yeah, and try to live as a child. But I think oftentimes we get caught in a journey, in a destination, and we don't we I don't know why we don't always do it, but we don't seem to stop and go, okay, maybe there's another option. Or and maybe it's because it's very scary to change, you know. And you can talk about your experience, because I think oftentimes, you know, our parents or the family around us, they kind of want us to be a certain way, so we're influenced. And I think when we're younger, unless you're sort of rebellious, you kind of do a bit of what your parents are sort of saying, and that maybe pleases your family, but at some stage you kind of want to do something else. But the the challenge from jumping from something that is known to something that is unknown, and you don't know, especially when it comes to money and success and titles. You know, maybe you've done well and you've put the effort in, but then you want to go to another direction. That can feel very scary and very unknown, um, and you have to be quite brave, because there is no unknown. And especially in your example, university, then you went into theatre and you go, I'm 60% of the way through. It just takes 40% to get that finished, but you changed. So it's a feeling for you, or it's just you've always been that way? Like, did you have to explain to your family? How was all of that for you?
No, I was laughing, of course. I had to explain to my family. Of course, my family initially didn't understand, but of course, eventually they accepted my decisions. Um, I think you found a very interesting connection between loyalty and intuition. Because while you were talking, I was thinking, I consider myself a very loyal person too. I mean, I've been in the same company for more than 20 years. I've never worked for a different company in my life. And I am married and happily married. I mean, I consider myself quite loyal with my friends, like as a kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think there are moments where it's important you are loyal also to yourself. And as a human being, you tend to evolve and grow. And so maybe, I mean, for sure it's important to listen also voices outside, but there is also a voice inside that is telling you, okay, that's correct, careful, really careful. Maybe this is not the right direction anymore, you know? And in my specific case, for example, I waited a lot before taking this voice under consideration. Like, it really had to yell at me, hello, like, maybe it's time for you to change, and then if you don't listen to this voice, so you are not really loyal to yourself, you might start to have many kind of signs of discomfort in your general mood, in your mind, in your physical well-being, And speaking in terms of sensitivity, this is a very important point, for example, for sensitive individuals, because they have this very strong voice, and for them is for everyone, but I think for them especially, it's super important to keep this alignment before between what they think it's right for them and what they are doing, what others are expecting of them, And when this balance is not okay anymore, it's difficult for them to bear this weight. It's like it's not the small, there's something small in your shoes. It's something, the elephant, not in the room, but in the shoe, Like you have
Yeah.
an elephant in your shoes, quite difficult to keep going. Then maybe you are a loyal person, you have a very strong willpower, so you keep going, but you are less and less happy, you feel less and less fulfilled, you are less and less bright, maybe. That's not good, I think.
Yeah.
So loyal, but for everyone, included yourself.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you say it, that those things can be in conflict, and that's strange because I don't. I'm not great at knowing exactly what my values are. I've done a lot of work on it, and it seems one day I wake up and my value is this, next day my value is something else. Um, but I tried to sort of wrestle with what are my values, and the only one that seems to come up time and time again is freedom, which seemed odd because I worked for a company for nearly 20 years. And I quite like routine and things being very much the same. And I think a big part of me creating these lives and this business around this is about having freedom. So I have to balance that out because, and it kind of ties into the point. Oftentimes we want to do something, but the forces around, especially if we're working for a company, it isn't actually aligned. What we want isn't aligned with what they want, and that can feel very difficult. And it's how do you deal with that? First of all, I think it's very difficult. You explained about the intuition, that voice that comes, and um, it's not. I think there is a voice that's very loud. For me, intuition is very quiet, whispers, and it's you can almost skip over it very easily, and it's just like, oh, yeah, it's just something, and you're not used to it. Um, but it has some sort of deep wisdom to it, and you go, oh, okay. And but like you said, if you ignore it, um, then there are signs, there are things that come up, and it is like having an elephant in your shoe, and it's just, and it's it's for me certainly it's not easy. I've experienced intuition telling me to go almost against that loyalty part, and it's like, and I'm like, and that, so then it feels that there's something not quite right, and I can't put my finger on what it is. And I'm still trying to wrestle with all of these parts because um, I'll explain a recent example. I was in a job, a company a while ago, and they wanted me to take a new role. The company wasn't doing great financially and needed me to take a certain role. And I had an interview, and for a whole week before that interview, it's a job I could do. I could have done it. I've done it before, but I sort of transitioned. It was almost going back, and I'd taken a different direction, and they wanted me to do this interview, and I did the interview. But for the whole week before, I felt off. It was I didn't feel sick or ill or anything. I was just like, what's this? What's going on? I couldn't understand it. And then I did the interview, and I thought I'd done okay. I thought, yeah, it's fine, I can do this. And I got the feedback from the interview, and they said, oh, well, he clearly doesn't want the job. And I was like, oh, okay. It must have been the way that I was speaking, or the way I thought I'd done okay. But maybe my body language or what I was saying in a different way, or my answers came across. And then I realized why I'd been unsettled for that whole week. It was I was being asked to do something that was against my values, and it wasn't values as in go and murder someone. It was just the direction that I wanted for my life. And and at that point, it was very excuse me, it was very scary because I didn't have another option. I didn't know what to do. It was either and again, I was loyal to the company, and I could see that it would have been benefit for me to take this job and just to help them out financially. I got all that. But I felt internally that I wanted a different path. I wanted something else. And I'd already made that decision previously, and I was doing a different role, and I was doing it really well. And then to go back and to to wrestle with all this, it felt horrible. But if I say it would be easy, it would be easy to say, yes, okay, I'll do that. But it was harder to follow my intuition and to follow my values. And when everyone else around you wants something else, to keep going on your own path is very difficult. And ultimately, that didn't support the company. And it wasn't that they let me go because of that, but the type of job that the company ran wasn't the type of job that I wanted. And so there was not a conflict as in a hard conflict, but it was, we wanted different things. So naturally, yes, I wasn't going to fit. And so I ended up being let go from the company, and which makes absolute sense to me, absolute. But it's quite scary because I didn't know what else I was going to do. And like, I didn't have a backup. I didn't have not even a plan A or a plan B or a plan C, anything. And I was like, okay, but it's led me to this point. It's led me here to do these lives, having this conversation with you. And strangely enough, something tells me I'm on the right path. I don't know what that something is because it doesn't seem like the same voice, but it seems that the world is reflecting back to me. Okay, you're doing a good job. I always say this when I started doing these lives. I was just reaching out to people, no agenda necessarily to say, yes, you have to come and do a live with me. I just started conversations with people on LinkedIn, and that's not easy. You have to get through this sort of cold outreach process. But what I found was people were saying yes really easily. And there was no convincing. I wasn't hard selling anything. I was just like, yeah, so I'd have a conversation. It wasn't my first opening thing that I would say. I ended up just saying, yeah, would you like to do a live? And the success rate was ridiculous. And I was like, what's that? Because I've been afraid of rejection pretty much my whole life. I wasn't afraid to ask. I think I took out the equation buying and selling, so I think that lowered some people's expectation of, okay, why does this guy want to talk to me? But then people were like, yeah, absolutely, I'd love to have a conversation. And I was like, oh, I think when you make decisions that are aligned with you, things sort of like the path becomes a little bit clearer. And it's not always easy. There's things along the way, but it's felt very natural, and strangely easy to do this. And yeah, sorry, I've done a lot of talking in it, but
No,
is that the way it was for you? Like, did you see those things?
I did, and in fact, I was thinking. I mean, there are decisions and decisions. I, after my experience, I studied a little bit about, well, a little bit more than a little bit about how decision making works in our mind from different perspectives. But if if I come back to my own experience, I can say, of course, I've made many decisions in my life. Few of them were quite big and important, and fewer of those were also quite scary because it was not just choosing, path A or path B, but it was keep going on path A or the forest or the desert, Um, but for example, when I decided to move from the company to my own personal journey, I had really no idea about what was I doing. I just knew that it was time for me to move forward somehow. And so as I told you, that was the moment of COVID. So we had to stay at home, as you remember. So I had a lot of time to think. I met I know that like the concept of ikigai together with many other concepts. So I try to look at my life back. So not saying, oh, I know what I want and I want to go there, but I know that I need to start walking again, and I trust that I will find, I don't know, signs on the sand that will help me find the right direction. So it was not really not easy in the beginning, especially because we tend to have a kind of also social identity, the first or the second thing you ask to someone is like, what do you do? Like, who are you? What do you do? Like, what is your job? And in that specific moment, you feel like, what am I? Like, if I lose my head, and this is scary and important at the same time because you feel like, but I'm not a head, right? So what am I? So I needed time, but then slowly, I think I refound my ikigai, at least for this next chapter of my life.
Yeah, it's I really love that because it's I've experienced it too. Yeah. So when I go and see my parents, I try to explain what I do. They won't necessarily understand LinkedIn or what it is, or um, and I even try and explain to my kids sometimes, and I sort of say what my job is, and I say, oh, I have conversations on the internet, and they look at me, and people look at me, and and it's really strange because you have to, like you said, you go through the desert or the jungle without knowing, without having an identity, um, not just trusting that things will work out, but not really. There's nothing to trust. You're looking for any little signs, and I remember going through a period of trying to outsource that to other people, just to just to know that I was doing something right and it was the right direction, because I was looking for any sort of sign that I was doing the right thing. It just because I was like, oh, I just wanted to grab onto something, and especially when you're doing something on your own, and it goes against everything that people have taught you. Um, and it was really strange when I started this. I always say I'm self-funded for this. This is something that I'm working out at the moment, how to turn this into a business. Um, but there's loads of gurus on the internet. There's loads of courses you can sign up for, blah, blah, blah. And it was really strange. It almost felt that everything that I was listening to, I was like, I'm doing the exact opposite. And I didn't do it out of, oh, someone's telling me this, so I'm going to do this. It was just naturally that way. But I felt that doing the opposite thing was right for me. And that's all I could say, because when this was coming up and people were giving me advice, it wasn't like this, no, 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 like a spoiled child, I want to do this. It was just like, I'm doing this. And at some point, I actually became quite proud of myself, because that takes some, if I say courage or something, because you don't know, but it feels right. And you go, yeah, I'm just going to do this. And then it's just like, okay, you get used to it. And I think that's the intuition part. And if you can lean into that and just and it's not, again, there's no, it's a feeling rather than like a physical thing that you can point to. It's like you just go, yeah, I'm just going to do this. And in a world where we seem to want instant results or instant feedback, when you're, I often say, sort of, when you're jumping off the cliff, you're looking for that one foothold that's secure or feels good, and that doesn't come the next day, it doesn't come that week, doesn't come that month, and you just keep going, and you have to trust in yourself. And that isn't, and it's a weird thing, because when you say, "Oh, trust in yourself," you can be a bit disillusioned to say, yeah, it's all going to work out, and that's not it. It's a different feeling for me. Does that make sense?
Total sense. I was remembering an episode that taught me a lot back then in those years of desert or jungle. So I moved from Bangkok, which is a huge city, very beautiful, to a very, 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 very small village in the rural Thailand for several reasons. And in that specific moment, without a clear social identity, and in my own confusion and thoughts, and in my own research for, I don't know, myself or my next step, I ended up helping or trying to help a small family of farmers here who have their beautiful rice fields. So, I come from philosophy, and then I was a manager. So I'm quite good in typing, but you give me like a shovel. There is, 7% risk that I kill myself trying to do something, right? So this experience as a farmer was very short, and it taught me several things, included the fact that I am not a good farmer, and that rice really has a value. Really, like the small, like, how do you call this? The punch of rice, like the pinch
Yeah,
of rice, like
yeah,
it really has a value. But there was this teaching. Once I was, putting the one seed by one seed, like one seed, one seed, one seed, and then the day after you have the finger like that, no? But then while I was doing that, I was thinking, and I was thinking, well, the farmer does what he or she can, right? So they put the seed inside the soil, but then they need to wait and they need to trust the soil. Like there is a whole ecosystem that is working for that seed. Like there is the land, there is the sun, there is the rain. There are a lot of things, and you just have to trust that everything is doing its job. Because if the day after you say, well, I'm not sure, let me go there and let me check. And then you open the soil and take the seed, and then, oh, okay, now we start again. Like the seed will never uh, produce the plant, and the plant will never bear fruits. So there is this moment where you do not just trust yourself. This was for me. You do
mm,
not just trust yourself. Okay, I did my best to put the seed. But there is also a moment where you trust the land and everything else, and the land and everything else needs the right time. So sometimes it's right. We are a little bit impatient, which is totally normal, I think. But just take your time and give the land time to produce beautiful plants.
yeah. I love the way that you've explained that, and it's grateful. I'm grateful that you went through that, because I think anyone that's, whether they're a leader, they're trying something on their own, I think that's such an important message, because you there are things at play that you have to trust in, and they're an unknown, and they kind of change. But I think that's part of the journey. That's part of it. It's to go, yeah, I trust that things are going to work out. And I th- I found in my own life, I just you just it might just be the smallest moment, and you go, oh, okay, it's that, and you have to kind of pay attention without trying to chase a result, or just say, I need to see that. just be a bit calm with it and just go, okay, look, I'm just going to do this. And I think one of the things that I found for myself is in that moment of just that repetitive actions, trying to reach out to people, just asking the same questions, I found enjoyment. And I think it's through that part of it, just set away any expectations or an agenda and just go, okay, what does this look like? How can I enjoy this? And when you realize actually when you go with an agenda, there's this like hard thing like this, I've got to get here. Actually, the joy is in doing those things every day, and you go, okay, so I'm going to send these messages. Oh, okay. And you go, oh, there's a system for that. That system can help me do that. Oh, I like systems. It's creative, and and you just show up, and then you get a sign. Someone replies to you, and you go, oh, okay, that's good. Enjoy that conversation. That might not be, excuse me, that person wants to do a live with you, but just think about that. You go, oh, someone has actually replied to me, does not know who I am, and has replied to a simple message. That in itself is massive, but we overlook that because we go, no, the thing is, someone needs to have a live conversation with me. It needs to be that way. No, if you can just enjoy that, the rest almost takes care of itself, like you say. Just do the bit, and that can be difficult. But if you can find some joy and enjoyment, and if it's really painful, then maybe it's not quite the right thing. I would suggest, or if you can understand why it's painful, I think that's important. You just go, maybe you're doing something at the wrong time of day, or the way that you're sending a message. I'm just trying to talk about my own work, and it's no how I would like to do this. I'm curious enough, and I think curious is a good way to sort of approach these things, because how you think things are going to evolve never do. And again, just to sort of tie back to something you said in the beginning. So I've always felt that people have said, especially we're talking about leadership here. Leaders are these people. We're going to get to the top of this mountain. This mountain is the mountain we need to get at the top of. So I've always tried to apply the same logic, as in set, I don't know, I want to say ridiculous goals oftentimes. But I found recently that my destination is not about pointing up here. It's about building here, understanding, just looking around and being calm and doing the thing that feels nice. And that doesn't mean that it's, oh, okay, I'm going to sit on the sofa and watch TV. It's just, okay, what would I like to do? And because that seems scary, and often when you think you go up there, you don't know the path to get there. But if you just go step by step and you go, okay, yeah, that's okay, and it doesn't feel so scary, you're going to go, okay, I'm going to try that. I think the only thing in my mind is that you have to be wary of distractions, because something can look like it's okay, it's going to get you up there, but it's not. I'll give you an example. Most people think that when they start a business, you need a fancy logo and a website and business cards and stuff like that. The reality is, I don't have a website. I have kind of a logo that kind of just fell into place through conversations. It's not fancy. I didn't pay anyone for it. I certainly have no business cards or anything like that. And I'm just doing those things, and it's again, those things can feel like a nice distraction. There's loads of people you can work with to get a fancy website. You can create your own. But the reality is, I didn't need a website, and I've got LinkedIn. That's fine. I understand there's limitations and stuff like that. But actually, I didn't need any of that other shiny stuff. It was just about having conversations, and what moves things for me is to reach out to people and to see if they want a live conversation. And before that, always felt and like I said about rejection, that felt like it was something that was, oh no, I can't ask someone to do something. But somehow I built a system that I enjoyed doing, and it felt that people were responding. At the end of all of that. A website is not going to get me more lives. Having conversations and being genuine without an agenda. And if someone doesn't want to do a live with me, absolutely okay. Absolutely okay. I really understand it. But most of the times they do. And I would normally avoid picking up the phone, speaking to anyone, having a face-to-face call with anyone. But it's actually the thing I would have avoided it in all other areas of my life. But for this, I do it. And not because I must or someone's telling me to do it. It's because I kind of want to do it and it just feels easier. And none of that was planned. None of that I knew. It was just like you said, step, 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 look around and yeah, and just go forward. And then I don't know where this mountain is. I don't know. It could be a completely different mountain. I have no idea. But at the end of it, I'm really enjoying it. And because you're in it, like you say, you just look around and you take a moment and you go. And when I started, it was around July, no, before then, June last year. Time moves very quickly. And then I was like, okay. And then I've realized I've had 50 plus conversations online. And I'm like, and you go, oh, wow. But it's easy to look back and think time has gone really quickly. But we almost want to look forward and want time to go quickly so that we get the result. And I think when you're enjoying what you're doing, the time goes even quicker. And so you're not chasing the time, you're not chasing the result, you're chasing the interaction and the joy of what you're doing.
Yes, that's so beautiful, and for my perspective is so true. And for example, one of the many things that my experience in my previous life with artists taught me is that, like, if you have an actor who goes on stage and say, okay, you know, in 1 hour and a half it will be done. Okay, let's do what we have to do, and runs away. Maybe his performance wouldn't be so effective. Like,
Mhm.
they stay there, they enjoy what they are doing, they feel excitement, they are really there with their hearts, with their minds, and that's why artists can make someone else cry or laugh, or like they are there, you know. And I think the same works also for different kind of professionals and leaders. So I don't think there is a problem if the leader wants to achieve the top of a specific mountain.
Mhm.
The point is how we arrive there. Because maybe you are a team leader and the company wants you bring your team there. So you have a mountain that you have to reach. Or you are the CEO and you decide that the company needs to arrive there within, I don't know, the next year. But the point is, how can we arrive there? And we have a lot of different possibilities here. And enjoying the journey is one of these possibilities. And for many people, is the best possibility.
Mm.
Maybe there is someone who really feels more alive when the challenge is super big, so they would choose a different way, and that's okay. But again, for many people, I think enjoying every single step could be a mindset that changes everything, because you're not just working there, you're also living.
Mm.
There's not another life after, right? So you are
Yeah,
living and
yeah.
you're working. So you want to do the best in both. Um, and just to add one thing, when you say um, maybe you are in a situation that makes you uncomfortable, or you really don't like and you feel bad, this made me think about, I met a monk uh, several times ago here in Thailand, and he told me, like, when you take a small rock in your hand and you like try to squeeze the rock, you feel pain. So who is giving you pain? The rock, or your way of keeping the rock in your hand? Like,
Mm.
the rock in itself cannot hurt you, but the way you are keeping the rock is the reason for your pain. And so sometimes if you don't feel comfortable in a specific environment, this doesn't just mean, okay, so I have to quit or I resign myself and I quit company. Maybe you just have to create a different kind of relationship with that environment or reframing the narrative that is going on in your head about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and so on. Uh, I don't
Yeah,
know, just food for thoughts.
I love that. That's a very nice way to think about it. I've seen that in myself. So I worked at this company before, and I felt like a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. And then I just didn't feel that it was everything was aligned. And I actually I quit that role without going for another job. But something very strange happened once I quit. So I had a month's notice to give. Um, Something shifted in me, like my mindset, and everything became easier. All the interactions, I was just, and I'm glad that I didn't work there anymore. Things were right, but because of my mind shift, I was like, oh yeah, this is easy. I'm just going to do this, and it doesn't matter what people say back or how they're going to respond to me. I come from a genuine place, and it was a bit weird because I felt I was really pleased that I was leaving, but then I was like, why had I been? I think I'd set in my mind that the things had to be a certain way, and it was so rigid in my mind, and because things weren't working out that way, it's like, oh, it's got to be this. Why are they not doing that? And then all of a sudden, I let that go, and I knew I was leaving. Obviously, that's part of it. But I almost sort of dropped my shoulders and just went, yeah, okay, what can I do here? And do you know what? My mind opened up, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go and sit with that person for a week. And before that wouldn't have occurred to me because I wanted to understand what they were doing and how they were doing. And I didn't care what anyone else was saying. I didn't want anyone else's approval. I just went and did it. And I built a very good relationship, and I understood so much more about the work that these people were doing. And I was like, that's crazy. And like, I could have done that before, but I like you say, I think I was just holding on too tight to a rock, and I wanted it to be a certain way. And it's really interesting that you say that. It's a nice way to reflect it back. But um, I wanted to switch gears just slightly into the leadership, because I think it's a great sort of thing to talk about, because we seem to, when we talk about leadership, we seem to think it's all very you've got to know everything, you've got to lead your people, you've got to be this, all this type of ways of doing it. And I realized in many conversations that we're all different, we all have a certain style, etc. There's place for absolutely everybody in different styles. Just because someone in a company does it this way doesn't mean you have to follow. You can do things in your own way, and actually doing that can be a big compliment to other people. So we've talked about sensitivity, but I I think the narrative often is, no, you can't be sensitive. You can't. You have to be strong. You have to be hard. You have to cut emotions. Everything. But I believe the opposite now, and I didn't at one point. But I think bringing who you are to a job is something that is really beneficial for you, but also for the companies. If they allow you to be who you are, and just to allow you to trust and to do that journey in your way, it's a real benefit. Because if you have someone that's like, I want to say alpha, and I don't know if that's the right way, it's just very aggressive. Oh, we've got to do this, absolutely. But then you have someone, if I say sensitive, and I don't know that I'm doing this justice, stop me if I'm saying it wrong, but someone's a bit more sensitive and going, oh no, I can feel that this isn't right for the team. I can get this sense that this isn't right. This person can go, I can see something that's not quite right. And if those different leadership styles can meet, and they have a mutual respect for each other, and go, yeah, look, I understand your way, but also that alpha, sort of tough one, we're going to go this way, can also connect. you can just sort of find this alignment, and you can just go, yeah, okay, we can do all of that. And I think that takes some awareness, and we have to be considerate that our way is not always the way that other people should do things, and just be open to other people, and that they can be receptive to us as well. And I think if we allow that balance within companies, within certain roles, I think things would move a bit smoother. That's just my opinion. How does that feel? Because obviously you deal with a lot of sensitive people. Are they saying the same thing? Do you see the same thing? What's your experience?
Uh, well, you put it very beautifully. Um, Everyone is different, and so there is not just one leadership model. There are many different leadership models. And so if you are a sensitive individual, it makes total sense for you to find your own way of lead, right? Eventually, if we circle back to the top of the mountain, if the goal is to bring your team on the top of the mountain, you choose the way that best suits you as a leader and that can support the best your own team. So if you're a sensitive leader, so a sensitive person is not someone. Someone told me once, a sensitive person is someone who cries when they watch like the end of Titanic, right? So even though it's very sad to see Leonardo DiCaprio freezing to death, but maybe this is not the best definition of sensitivity, right? So a sensitive person is someone who process reality in a deeper way, both external reality and internal reality. So they tend to feel their emotions a lot. They tend to think a lot. Sometimes they tend to overthink, overanalyze, and they tend to be very empathetic. Of course, even in this case, everyone is different. This is not one label fits all. Okay, but just to saying, so a sensitive person is not someone who, oh, there is a butterfly and I cry, but I cannot read a spreadsheet, right? No, absolutely, it's the opposite. It's someone that maybe stays on that spreadsheet a lot because they really need to feel sure because they can see a lot of different nuances. Or this kind of people can enter a room and immediately feel the temperature, so can immediately understand if someone is happy or annoyed just looking at them for 1 second. They can create trust. They have a very strong intuition. So these are a lot of gifts. And if you just say, oh, you're too kind to lead. You're reducing everything to a stereotype, maybe. So let them be kind, but kind is not the opposite of being tough or of being respected. You can be respected even if you're kind, if kindness is your style, because you care about people, you understand people, and people trust you. As we were saying in the very beginning of our conversation, when you feel heard, then you tend to open yourself and to trust the other person. So, I mean, I started as a leadership coach because I've been in leadership position and because I was using to have a coaching here and there even back then. But after a few coaches, I decided to specialize in sensitivity because when I like if I meet people who say, well, I would like to be a leader, but I am too sensitive to be a leader. I don't know how to say no to others. I care too much. I am too much kind. And so they automatically cut themselves out of the picture because they think that there is just one possible way to be leaders. I think this is a misconception.
Yeah. Where do you think that comes from? Is that like a cultural or a society thing, or it's, again, like you said, we make assumptions about a lot of things, and it's often not the case. Yeah, was I actually had a live with another lady from Italy actually, and she has a really beautiful style. Viviana, she has such a beautiful style, and she was like a team lead, and it was really funny because when she was coming on the live, she had so much support from people that loved her, and it was so interesting to see because that you could tell that everyone really valued her as a person, what she was doing, how she was doing it, And she wasn't saying, "Oh, I've got all the answers" or anything, but she paid attention to herself, but she also paid attention to other people, and she was able to move things a lot quicker. It's if you don't spend that time getting to know your people, it's like you're trying to drag them up to the top of the mountain. Actually, if you understand who they are and spend it, you go, okay, we're all supporting each other. Okay, now we've got to create a bridge or whatever, and you go, okay, you know enough about that other person. Go, oh, you're really good at creating bridges, could you come and help build the bridge? And but the way she did it was just so beautiful. And it was this mindset that we have that there is no place, because leadership has to be strong and make these sort of hard decisions all the time. But it doesn't mean that you can't. It just means that you think about it, you give maybe more thought and consideration to other aspects that other people wouldn't do. That's my interpretation.
Oh, yes, absolutely. But I think there are many people who are start to envisioning leadership also in different ways. And again, being a leader is being a bridge between where you are and where you want to go. And you can build many different bridges as long as you bring your team safe and sound on the top of that mountain. And yeah, you can do this with a smile.
Yeah.
What's the problem?
Yeah, and I think if you do it and you've got a smile at the end of it, you're even more successful, right? It's
Yes.
yeah. I was just thinking, because there might be certain companies that have a culture or a way of being, and again, it's not always about quitting, but I think if you understand the culture of the company, or how the landscape is, then you can make more of an informed decision rather than just a rash one. Okay, I'm not going to fit in here. Um, but some companies are. That's the nature of the business that they're in. They have to be this way. They have to do high sales or whatever. But there are other companies that aren't, and it's not a. I don't necessarily know that you should quit, but just understand. If you're going to take a job, understand the type of people that you're going to be working with. What is the actual culture? And you can ask those things in interviews. And you can get that sense. And I wouldn't always trust looking on the website, because I've been in companies where their values and everything on the website, and then you get into the company, and so that doesn't exist. But I think you can ask those questions going in and feel secure. And if things aren't going right, you can talk to your managers. You can find another way. And I think oftentimes we think we can't express who we are to our managers. But have we even tried? Have we even taken the time to go and talk to them? Because they might actually, what we see externally might not be what's internal. So let's say, like a leader who's sort of always seems to be saying go 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 without really looking. Actually, take the time, take the opportunity to go and speak to that person and try not to convince them, but just to exchange, because they may actually have that side to them. They may also have someone else in their life who is a bit more sensitive, is a bit more thoughtful, and they go, oh, okay, yeah, I just misunderstood, because maybe they were assuming as well. And before just sort of quitting, go and have that conversation, because at the end, if it doesn't work, you're going to leave anyway. But you can try and have that, and not just, I'm very all or nothing thinking. I've been that way for pretty much all of my life. But I've been through coaching and therapy and things like that, and every time there is this beautiful grey area where we can exist. It doesn't have to be these extremes, and you can find your place within that grey area. And yeah, you just have to kind of lean into it, have conversations, try and speak to people. And yeah, it might feel a little bit uncomfortable if you're not used to doing it, but try. What do you have to lose? That's my thoughts anyway.
Um, I mean, effective communication is plays an important part in this game, I think. And sometimes, in my experience with supporting coaches who are maybe quite sensitive according to our previous definition.
Mm.
Sometimes it's not so easy to face someone directly and saying what they are thinking or what their worries are for different reasons, because they might feel important to be pleased, to be accepted by others, so they tend to please others, so they don't want to overstep or doing anything that may reduce this kind of balance, or because they don't want to hurt anyone. They don't want to hurt anyone. So they are so also working on the right way to express what you have in mind, what you have in your heart, may be a good way to help you connect, to build that bridge, let's
Mm.
say, right? But what you say is absolutely right and wise. Like if there is something that is not working, go out there and talk to whoever you should talk. Even though, again, I can recognize that it's not so easy
Yeah. Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, and I think, you know, it's easy for me to sit here and say, okay, that's how not you should be, but you know, try that. And if it's if you are, you know, worried of the outcome, etc. But what would you advise someone that was listening to this? You know, if they are concerned, is there certain approaches? Is it some work on themselves? Is it trying to find a different method to share your thoughts? Do you have a pattern or some certain types of advice or direction you would give someone that came to you and said, okay, I don't want to upset people? What would you normally say to them?
Mm, this is a good question, and I think it would be reductive to have just one answer, because
Yeah.
everyone maybe has a different reason to not wanting to upset people. Even though
Hmm.
this is often I notice this as a recurrent pattern, you know. So maybe because you care too much, or vice versa, because you need their approval, or something in between. Um, Maybe if we were working together with this client, we would try to explore, okay, like I don't want to speak with this person because I don't want to hurt their feelings, for example, right? So why we are talking about this? So why there is the idea that you would like to speak with them, but you don't want to speak with them? So what is important about this topic? And we try to explore what is beyond the concept of giving a feedback or going there and saying out loud
Mm.
the hard truth or whatever, you know. And so when you find the ingredients, then maybe you can cook a different kind of a menu. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, again, the communication is a way to bring something to someone else. But if this scares you, let's cool down, move one step backward. Let's see what is important here for you. Let's find the right elements, the right ingredients, and then let's try together to cook something different that is more aligned with who you are, your way of communicating yourself, and so on.
Yeah, it's I really love that because oftentimes I've I've thought, you know, people say I can't do this or I don't like a certain thing, but that taking a step back has a lot of power in it. Just taking a moment just to look back. Actually, so I've often said, you know, we often try to fix the symptom, you know, what's showing up, but actually it's the root cause. Okay, maybe I see the world in a certain way, and so it's just I don't know an example to sort of say, but just say, okay, you know, when I was growing up, I didn't like this type of person because they were a bully in the playground or something, and you go, oh, okay, and that's maybe something that's like a belief of yours that actually all these type of people are bullies, and if you can go back and understand, okay, where does that come from? It actually might help in future decisions. It's not the thing they go, oh, I don't want to speak to this person, and you actually find out, oh, okay, because in what you've experienced, that type of person represents like a bully or someone that's going to I don't know, walk all over you in some sort of way. And if you can go back and understand that for someone, and then sort of reframe it, it might be that you can't reframe it. But I love the fact that you couldn't give one answer, and I think that says a lot about you, because we seem to live in a place where we're supposed to have all the answers. One framework works for absolutely everybody, and I think in some cases there are very much useful things when we can boil it down. But when it comes to people, we are complex. We do have backgrounds. We might have certain characteristics, but it's actually about the person, the uniqueness of their journey, their background, what they've experienced. And if you can go back to that and allow them to connect with it, maybe it's something that could be reframed for them, for their benefit, not to change their mind, but just to see there's potentially another way to look at that. And that decision, that one thing, can change many aspects of their life, not just maybe work, but their relationships at home with their friends, just going through life. Maybe they're not, and that limiting belief, if I can say it that way, has maybe held them back from trying a new sport or a hobby or something like that. And that thing can have a big ripple effect in many parts of their life. So I love the fact that for you, it's about the person, and you understand the all these different aspects, but it comes down to the person in themselves. So I think that's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good. So I'm very conscious of the time. Honestly, today's session is just absolutely whizzed by. I think we could speak for a long, long time,
Wow.
but it was amazing. I think that's such a great place to finish up. I think there's so much more to explore with you and your experiences, and I'd sort of welcome people that are watching this, if they've got comments, to either reach out, and maybe we can do a round two, because I believe that there are a lot of people that are consider maybe themselves sensitive in some shape or form, and that's not necessarily defining it, that want to be leaders, or they are leaders and they struggle with it for whatever reason, but often they won't talk about it or express it because they feel that that's not okay, or it's not the way that it's done. And there is no way to be done, and I think it's a lovely conversation to explore. I've really enjoyed it. It opens up my mind, but I think it was especially good to have this conversation with you, because you have that lovely view of things. You have that ability to listen, and not just to boil it down to one thing, boil it down to everyone's unique and what it is for them. So for today, fantastic, absolutely, I really appreciate it. As always, I repost these on LinkedIn. Where are people best to find you? Is it a website? Is it LinkedIn? Where would you suggest people go?
Yeah, thank you, Colin. They can find me on LinkedIn. So
Okay.
Gabriele Tozzi. Yeah, I'm there waiting for new friends. Yeah, I'm
Nice.
there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. As I say, this was a real pleasure, and I hope a lot of people get a lot out of this conversation. But for today, thank you so much, Gabriele.
Thank you, Colin. Always very beautiful talking to you. Thank you.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks. Take care. Bye.